and welcome to the Drive and Dish podcast. We're here for December the 22nd, and we are here to pick college basketball and NBA. It's a great day. Pro and college basketball. We'll throw in some NBA picks for you. We're going to pick both games, and we'll get to the real start as the week progresses and more games come. No daily fantasy for the NBA today, just 2 games, so I didn't feel like fooling with that. We'll start out with yesterday's picks and our results. Our man Dynamite David went 1-3, losses with Murray State minus the 4 versus Austin P. Belmont minus the 9.5 versus Evansville. Tough break and a tough loss there. Rice minus 7 versus New Orleans was a winner. Wofford plus 6.5 versus Texas A&M was a loser. And Tennessee versus St. Joseph's under 146. That was a loss. The Vols keep scoring at too high a rate, and they didn't even defend all that well this game. But so 1-3 overall. That's 11-17 for Dynamite David on the year. I went 1-2 on my picks. South Carolina State plus the 33 versus Furman. I needed about 70 points. Thank you to Furman for continuing to run up that score in the second half. Anytime you can beat somebody by about 70, it's well worth it. Washington State minus the 12 versus Prairie View. A&M was my winner, and I also had Tennessee versus St. Joe's under 146, and that just didn't work out quite right. So 1-2 on the day, 74, 57-1 on the year for college basketball. We'll move on to today's picks. We'll start out with Dynamite David. He has Texas Tech minus the 2 versus Oklahoma, Kansas minus the 1.5 versus West Virginia, and Georgia minus 9.5 versus Northeastern. So those are the Dynamite's picks for December the 22nd. We'll move on to my picks. We'll start out with the first one, Charlotte minus the 1 versus George Washington. So far, Charlotte is 3-3 on the year. Really good win versus Davidson. Losses to Appy State, East Carolina, and Georgia State. I think they're all worse than those. George Washington is a really poor team. I think Charlotte, Ken Palm ranked 169. Is just a better team than the 241st George Washington. So a nice spread here at the -1. I don't think there's a lot of home field advantage. I should say home court advantage for George Washington here. So really like that spread. Next up, we like Portland plus the 3.5 versus Montana State. Really tight here. Portland so far 5-2 on the year, but it's a little fake. A lot of Division II wins, but there is a nice Oregon State win in there. Losses to Oregon and Seattle, and a bunch of Division II wins. So this game versus Montana State, really two similar teams about ranking style. Montana State does have that nice win versus UNLV, and losses to Pacific and Washington State, and a Division II win. So really a tight game. But I think Portland is a better team here, and getting 3.5 points, if they can overcome that home court disadvantage, I think they'll be good here, plus the 3.5. Next up, we have Vanderbilt plus the 7.5 versus Davidson. Vanderbilt off to a decent 3-1 start, but hard to tell how good they really are. Valpo, Mississippi Valley State, Radford are their wins. You expect them to win all those. A 9-point loss to Richmond. I think Davidson isn't really as good as Richmond, so a 9-point loss there. I think they'll be able to hang with Davidson for a little bit, and I think the Commodores are a little bit better than their ranking is right now. Davidson 4-3, wins over High Point, UNLV, Georgia Southern, and Rhode Island. Losses to Texas, Providence, and Charlotte. So they're a little bit hot and cold, which they've been for the last couple of years. That offense remains really efficient, but a real slow offense. So I think this Vanderbilt team will be able to hang with them and cause them some problems. Plus the 7.5 seems really good. And we'll go to one of the big games on the day, Purdue plus the 7 versus Iowa. Purdue has been a little bit hot and cold. Losses to Clemson and Miami, Florida. So long as they stay out of the ACC, they've been good. They've won 6 games. Good wins over Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Liberty. So I think they'll be able to hang with this Iowa team whose offense is extremely good. And 6-1, their only loss coming to Gonzaga. really good offense, but this defense is really poor. So anytime you're giving me about 7 points in a conference game with a really poor defense, I'm going to take Purdue here. All right, so that's our college basketball fix for December the 22nd. We'll move on to the NBA. I said I picked both games. I'm going to pick both games. I'm going to take Golden State plus the 7.5 versus Brooklyn. Just curious to see how Golden State comes out here. I think 7.5 points is a lot. I think they'll try to put on a show versus Brooklyn. I think they'll remain within that number. LA Clippers plus 3.5 versus the Lakers. I think this will be the ceremony, and usually teams struggle coming off the ring ceremony. So I'm going to take the Clippers plus the 3.5 here. So those are my NBA picks. Golden State plus the 7.5, Clippers plus the 3.5. Be sure to follow us on all the Greenlight Network programs. We're going to have a bowl pick'em show with our man Dynamite David dropping soon. Of course, Football Time podcast with our man Achilles Rain, recap of the NFL week. Our NBA preview podcast, Know It All, just dropped the other day, and it will have all your NBA preview needs to get you ready for the season, along with a movie review with Rita Cinema from Tenet. And that's our show, and we're out.